We're having too much fun already. The clash of the top 10 Democratic presidential contenders. They came out of the gate hard and strong for the third Democratic debate. But what does it mean for today, tomorrow, next week? And is this really now just a three-person race, or did anyone else on the stage have an impact? The panel with me tonight, Sabrina Siddiqui is here. She's a CNN political analyst. Steve Rogers is a member of President Trump's re-election campaign advisory board. Democratic strategist Mike Morey is here, and S.E. Cupp, CNN political commentator and the host of CNN's S.E. Cupp Unfiltered. All right, I have so many questions. Mike, first to you. As the resident Democrat on the panel, what do you make of the night? Everything you hope for and more for the Democratic Party?
You know, I think the night went well for everybody, for the most, other than Julian Castro. I think the night went
is that where
well.
you are? I was going to say.
You know, I think Joe Biden actually had a really strong first half performance. I think he, stumbled a little bit in the second half, but Joe Biden...
Well, debates are too long.
Well, it was 3 hours. and Joe has stumbled in the past and still been fine about it. And, when you're going to go up against Donald Trump, who sort of stumbles on a daily basis, I think that's going to be fine in the end. I think Joe did really well. I think Elizabeth Warren has consistently showed, truth be told, we were talking about this earlier, she's sort of the most presidential up there at all times, sort of most in command of the facts. She has the most presence up there.
But still not answering a lot of questions when it comes to health care.
Well, most presidential. She's figured out how to do that. I was surprised that, the first, and no one's really talked about this, but, Joe actually took the first slight dig up there at Elizabeth Warren. And so, everyone's talking about Julian Castro going after Joe Biden, but Joe Biden actually made a calculated decision to sort of rub Elizabeth Warren a little bit before anyone actually came after him, which I think goes to show the degree to which people realize that she is ascendant in this race.
That's a good point. Essie, what did you make of the Castro moment? I just kind of cheap shot or fair game?
Well, it was fatal. I think he signed his political death certificate last night, and not just in this presidential election, but like the future of his politics, his political career. It was really ugly, unnecessary, wrong, factually, and it was really it was a bad
he said he wasn't trying to take on age. He wasn't trying to question his memory.
Fundraising on it now. I mean, he is sending out fundraising emails saying, "I stood up for you last, at the debate, and." I'm getting viciously attacked for it. It's gross. And I think people saw it for what it was, which was an attack on Joe Biden's age and his memory, and then attacking his legacy of championing Barack Obama. Are you kidding? I think it was fatal. I think he's finished.
I do think the catch that he had when he says you hug Obama when it's a good thing, you say I was just the vice president when it's a question. I did think that was a good contrast. That's a great point though. Steve, Biden did come out strong. I mean, he took on Warren, as Mike's saying, like he took on Warren, especially on health care, and definitely Sanders on health care in a way that we really haven't seen folks challenge her on yet. I mean, asking how they're going to pay for $3 trillion a year health care plan. Do you think with the beginning performance at the very top of it, do you think Biden put to rest, put aside, put to bed the questions that were lingering after the first couple debates about him?
A couple of things to keep in mind. Yes, I do. However, as was mentioned by the panel, all of that was forgotten after Castro's, I think, disastrous performance in really going after Biden with regard to his age. But saying that, the winner at this particular debate was President Trump and the Republican Party, because they offered no vision. It was the same story from the same people. So at the end of the day, I believe what happened at that debate was a disaster for the Democrat Party. There's no vision, there's no hope, and there's no change, as Barack Obama would say. And big victory for the president and Republicans.
Sabrina, 1 second. I can hear Mike laughing beside me.
Well, I think what everyone up on that stage saw was that, what was remarkable about the debate, I think, was the degree to which, again, with the exception of Julian Castro, which was a little sort of below the belt, the degree to which the way in which they engaged each other was a little bit more above board, a little bit more presidential, a little bit more respectful. You contrast that to what comes out on a daily basis from the White House and on Twitter. I think that these people are saying, you know what, the American public actually wants some sanity again. Why don't we give them some sanity again?
Yeah, go ahead, Sabrina, please.
I think they did have a fairly comprehensive debate on the issues. More than a half hour was spent on health care alone, and whether you go to a full single-payer health care system or do you build on Obamacare with some kind of opt-in public option, and then they moved on to guns, immigration. There was a discussion of foreign policy, which you hadn't seen in some of the previous Democratic debates. But all of the debate really reinforced the question that continues to loom over Democrats, which is this ideological divide that I think is still very much center stage, and it was crystallized when Biden said of Elizabeth Warren, she's for Bernie, I'm for Barack. And so, you know, he and some of the more centrist candidates are arguing in favor of a more incremental change and a return to normalcy, a return to a steady hand, particularly for those voters who feel there's an urgency around making sure Donald Trump is a one-term president. Bernie, Warren, and some of the progressives, they feel like the only way that you inspire voters to the polls is through sweeping reform and true structural change. And that's really the debate that unfolded for most of the 3 hours, barring a few of these more personal attacks.
I think Buttigieg really made that distinction clear in a really good way when he said, look, you know, I trust American voters on health care. Why don't you?
That moment,
and that was a good way of saying I'm progressive, I want these changes too, but I don't think we need to take choice away from all Americans. And I think that's a contrast Joe Biden's got to do better, because that is his contrast with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie. He's got to make that more clear.
I don't think that their message is resonating with the majority of people in this country. You want to talk about health care? I've had people come in my office when Obamacare actually kicked in who lost their health care. They lost it, and they wanted to keep it. And to suggest that we're going to give people $1,000 a month and
it's resonating in a Democratic primary.
It's definitely resonating in a Democratic primary, and also they are arguing, which is exactly what the president did in the first year of his presidency, was just trying to dismantle Obamacare without any plan of how they were actually going to replace it.
It resonates beyond a Democratic primary, because in the 2018 midterms, part of why Democrats were so successful at taking back the House is because they remained laser focused on pre-existing conditions and healthcare. They didn't take the bait when Trump was trying to talk about the caravan and immigration, and the discussion around healthcare really resonated with those suburban voters and independents who swung back toward Democrats in the midterms.
To your point, they did present a vision that I think will be very tough in a general election, a vision in which every candidate wants to take your gun away. You know, almost every candidate wants to decriminalize the border. Almost every candidate wants to abolish private health insurance. That's going to be a very tough turn in a general election, and those policies are not popular.
Especially on Beto O'Rourke's point of wanting to take away guns, a mandatory buyback. I talked to Democrats who said, even if I agree with the policy, this is not helpful for us long term.
No, it's an ad. It's a GOP ad.
Like immediately and for years to come. Guys, much more to come. Please stand by. Still ahead, Republicans are breathing a sigh of relief after a close call in a special election. But do Democrats also then have something to celebrate there? We'll be right back.